Rebecca Gebhardt here. I have Jeff Hoffman with me. We're going to be waiting a few seconds to get started and make sure that we're live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. If you're joining us, please comment where you're joining from. And I think that'd be really exciting to see all the comments, and we'll make sure that we reply in kind. But we are indeed live on LinkedIn. So welcome to the 14th episode of Lessons from the Leaderboard to Leadership. I am Rebecca Gebhardt, owner of Rise Up Consulting, where we specialize in helping salespeople emerge from sales to sales leadership and helping sales organizations strengthen their sales leadership pipelines. This series started as a way to interview phenomenal sales leaders, other consultants who are also helping people that we help, and a great resource to offer valuable information to all those aspiring, emerging, and new sales leaders. And honestly, experienced sales leaders, because we always go back to the basics and we go, what did I miss in those foundational aspects as I was learning and rising up the ranks? So with me today, I have Jeff Hoffman, and I'm going to give Jeff's a quick bio, which will not do him justice. But he is
I'm sure it'll be
the
fine.
CEO. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll wing this. So he's the CEO and chief closer at Hoffman. He's the creator of Own the Deal, and is the author of Why You Now. He is going to share some of his experiences with us, but he has a ton of knowledge and has worked with a lot of organizations. He has been a visiting MBA lecturer at the Harvard Business School for, I think, 18 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Long
Crazy.
time. And he's been in business over 25 years. And these are some of the organizations that he has counseled and worked with. He's worked with the Boston Celtics. He's worked with Fidelity Investments, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, UPS, just to name a few. And what Jeff's going to be talking about with me today are some of the things that you want to bring with you into sales leadership, what you want to keep in sales, and just his own experience. So welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Rebecca. I'm so thrilled to spend some time with you on such a great topic, because boy, is that a scary moment when you make that pivot, right? When you go from individual contributor to leader. It's a scary moment. So happy to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, and you're going to have a lot to say. So I'm really, really excited for this whole conversation. But to kick us off, can you just kind of explain just your sales journey from, I know you were the number one rep, and then how you got promoted into sales leadership?
Yeah, and I think my journey is pretty common for reps. I was a heads down salesperson doing my job, working my way through my craft, working my way through the competitive leaderboard, and over time, had a lot of success. Ultimately, though, one of the jobs I had early in my career was in commercial real estate. The executive who oversaw our office fired my boss. And then he approached me. I'd only been there about a year. I was a top performer, but I was an individual contributor. And he said, Jeff, you're doing such a great job here. We're looking for a replacement for your boss. Do you mind keeping the seat warm and just kind of, I don't know, do whatever you do and get everyone else to do it? And that was my welcome to sales management onboarding moment. And probably doesn't surprise anyone listening, Rebecca. I know we've talked about this. No shock here. I was not very long for that job. In fact, you could measure it in weeks, not months. I mean, I failed miserably, and thank God I did, because it was the failure of that experience early in my career that had me completely reshape what it means to be a great rep versus a great sales rep leader. And that failed moment really informed me for a lot of good choices later.
Yeah, I like, thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure it gets easier to share our failings the more years pass, right? Like, I'm sure that wasn't, it's been enough years ago. Yep. So and you're a consultant as well. And so we have this philosophy as consultants, we want to shorten people's learning curves, but there is a lot of value. You cannot make it through and rise up the ranks and just become without making mistakes. So that's not, and there's so much value in those mistakes, but there's people like us, we just kind of want to minimize that. Like, it doesn't have to be so expensive and
well, I think that's what the
costly.
purpose. Yeah, like the purpose of the programs that you and I do are for that reason. So I'll give you an example, right? So when I first got into sales leadership in this weird pivot, I was told, do what you do and get everybody else to do it. Good advice. One problem. I'm a hyper performer. I'm the number one rep, which means I speak number one rep language and I behave like a number one rep. And I have an attitude of a number one rep, which is going to be great when I coach my number one reps. But unfortunately, 90% of my team is not a number one rep and they speak a very different language. Here's where I got it wrong. I spent 3 painful months trying to get 14 adults to learn my language, and I failed. And from that moment forward, I stopped doing that because all I do now is try to learn their language. You only need to learn their language to coach them. They don't have to learn yours. And that was a big first step in me figuring out how to do this.
Yeah, well, and it's also it's one of the biggest mistakes new sales leaders make. But it stems from how you're promoted. So your boss came to you and said, Jeff, you're number one, teach everyone to do what you do. You go, okay, I am making carbon copies of myself.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
leaders, we can't do that. You
Doesn't
talked
work.
about communication. No, it doesn't work. No. And
Right.
what I'm sure you stress, I'm sure that you do, what we stress as well, is strength-based sales coaching for a competitive edge. Right?
I like it.
Everything you were talking about speaking their language, but you coach, you treat everyone the same, but you coach them differently. You coach to their strengths, to how they communicate. And that's tricky to understand
It is.
because it's tricky.
It is. And one of the things I coach people with and our clients on that is I think about it as 2 conversations. A lot of us in sales leadership, we blend 2 things that we shouldn't. And what are those things? I think they're like coaching, which you define perfectly, and feedback, which is really different than coaching, but also important. When we as sales leaders attempt to coach and give feedback in the same moment, we fail. Why? Because the rep who hears our coaching is hearing it from a boss. See, a boss coaching is not the same as the guy you have at your gym working out with you who you're paying. There the relationship is I have the authority, you work for me, you're coaching me. Here I have no authority. I'm the rep, I work for you. Are you really coaching me, or am I just doing everything you tell me to do because you're my boss? To fix that, I argue we strip out coaching and feedback to 2 separate conversations. And when it comes to coaching, I'm with you, Rebecca. It's their language. It's about them. It's about their strengths. And when it's about feedback, though, that's my language. That's my strengths.
Right.
And if I can balance that, yeah, because sometimes they got to tell them stuff that they're not going to like to hear. That's with feedback time. That's Jeff's time. But if I'm coaching and it's not Jeff's time, it's your time. And if you as a leader can effectively communicate to your team what you're doing in any given moment, oh, this is a coaching moment. Oh, this is a feedback moment. You're going to find that those moments get much smoother and much easier to manage.
Yep. We did speaking of feedback, we did a leaderboard to leadership survey in March of 21 because there was no data. It was really weird. So maybe after this, you and I can geek out. Maybe you've done some research I don't know about. But
Yeah.
like the top challenges of sales leaders, and time management was number 1, feedback was number 2, and accountability was number 3.
That makes sense.
And it's feedback's tricky, coaching is tricky, but we lump everything together. It's like sales leadership. It's like there are specific times for it. You have to have a relationship. There's nuances
There
that have
are.
to be
I,
learned, but it's
yeah.
challenging.
I think of it like 4 chapters in a book for sales leaders. 4 chapters that if you're not doing one of these 4 chapters, I don't know what you're doing today. It's one of 4 things you should be doing every day: leading, coaching, inspecting, or forecasting. That's it. That's it. Coaching, leading, forecasting, inspection. You're either doing those 4 things or you're doing something else, and something else is not leadership.
Yeah.
So it's always important, I think, as leader, when we're reps, the eye on the prize is pretty simple. Close the deal, hit the quota. But when we're a manager, those targets start to move. And everybody's different, and everybody's a little bit has different goals and achievements. And it's not such a linear, direct line. So maybe we should celebrate the small victory more and think about what is our purpose as managers. In my opinion, is it's always the same. Take my best players, get 10% more out of them. Take my B players, coach them to A, and everybody else get out. That's what I do.
You mean you don't beat your head against the wall with people who aren't going to be successful?
If
What?
you're not a B player, you're not going to be on my team ever. And if you are a B player, you probably only have 90 days to get to A. But that's it.
You can't hang with Jeff unless you're an A.
Well, it is sales. It is a sales gig. So at the end of the day, if it's not going to be you, it's going to be me. So, that number does matter. But it's easy to coach scared, right? In that new management job as a leader, you're a rep. You own the quota. Now you're a manager and they own the quota. Whoops, that got scary quick. Don't let that fear and anxiety translate into poor leadership. Don't let that fear become the rah, let's go, and let's put the pedal to the metal all the time. That is the last thing you want to do as a leader. You have to absorb that turbulence when you're coaching and when you're leading, or no one's going to follow you anywhere.
Yeah. Jeff, those are good insights. I'm sure people who are watching or listening to the replay are taking lots of notes. Let's get into some more juicy topics. So I know that you and I really share the consensus that in order for sales companies to thrive in the next few challenging years, it's going to be coming down to sales leadership. It's as the competitive edge. And so what are the top 3 things you think organizations should be doing right now to make sure that their sales leaders are on the same page, they're trained? Like what can they be doing right now?
Sure. So, and right now is the key, right? Because right now happens to be January 9th, 2023. If you asked me that question 2 years ago, I'd have a different answer. Because we're now in a recession. And if you're a sales executive / leader, and this is your first recession, good advice, Rebecca, take notes. Just listen, because you've never done this before. But if you're my age, you've done this a few times. Here are the 3 things I would recommend all organizations are focused on right now to ensure that their leaders in sales are equipped and supported to hit what's going to be a very challenging year in no particular order. You need to be an organization in 2023 that does the following: values courage, rewards intellectual curiosity, and has an appetite for closing. And I'll be happy to talk about all 3. But those are the things. Anything less, you will fail. Because in a recession, only 2 companies survive in an industry. Number 1, and maybe number 2. Everybody else goes out of business. That's what happens every recession. So if you are currently the company that's number 2 in your space, you better get those sales leaders ready to rock, because you'll be slipping down that ladder very quickly with the competition that's about to happen.
Yeah. So value courage, rewards curiosity, and appetite for closing.
Yes, we can kind of dive in there if you want a little. Value and courage.
Yes.
So one of the things that sales managers, I think, are guilty of doing is that they coach to the outcome. So it's like, I'm going to help you get more sales. I'm going to help you close better. I'm going to help you objection handle better. I'm going to help you competitive position better. And then you wind up coaching against that goal. So you give some instruction to the rep, and the rep tries something on the phone, and then you say good, or you say bad, you say try again, you say whatever. With missing the key component of this, valuing courage. As a sales leader, when you coach, you do not coach to the outcome, you coach to the attempt. Meaning, once they make the dial, once they ask the question you gave them, once they try something new, it's a win. Doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what happens. This gives the rep the belief that you reward attempts to greatness, not just greatness. And that gives reps the courage to try hard things this year. If you don't do that, they will yes you to death, and do exactly what they've always done when you leave. So value and courage is very important. Celebrate the attempt, not the outcome. That's the first one.
Yeah, well, and it's what's so important about that to remember is salespeople can control what they can control, and that's their controllable actions, right? Their habit, skill set, mindset, and how our brains are wired. What psychology tells us, what behavioral science tells us, is when we get feedback, the small wins consistently done that creates momentum, that creates action. It's like you miss the step half the time. Okay, so that's good. So valuing courage, and then the next one is rewarding curiosity.
Yes, rewarding, and I call it intellectual curiosity. Intellectual curiosity. What does that mean? One of the strongest components to great sales professionalship is how comfortable can a rep be discussing a topic they don't understand. That's a big part of a sales job. We do a lot of conversations on topics that we're on. Why? Because most of us in sales sell to geographic regions. So we sell to different customers in that geo. And so we deal, although we might sell to a space, the context of that space changes by industry. Every sales call is a little different. The more expensive my stuff, the smarter the people on the other end of the table. I barely went to college. They have PhDs. You can see how problematic this comes. Bad sales leaders scream at their reps to be more credible. Do more homework. You should know this. Bad. Great sales leadership says you don't have to be credible. Be curious. Embrace your ignorance. Embrace how little you understand the customer's world and ask dumb questions anyway. That is the second tenet to great leadership in a recession. Inspiring a culture where intellectual curiosity is supreme. Very powerful. So that's my second.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And you said, ask dumb questions, but just asking questions, I feel like sales, especially in discovery, you're not supposed to have an answer. Like you're not supposed to have an answer, but the quality of a salesperson is not in your responses, but it's in the quality of your questions. So ask a dumb one to start out with, and then
I've
listen.
I've never known a rep. Yeah, I've never known a rep to fix a deal with something they said. But I do know reps who screw up a deal with things they say. The truth is, the customer's going to buy because they're talking, not because I'm talking. Great reps know it. Great managers let great reps know it too.
Yep. Oh, I love that. Okay. Then talk about this appetite for closing.
Yeah. You were joking before, right? Like, look, you're an A, you're a B, or get out. And that's where this part comes in. That's where this shows up. The way I always phrase it for sales managers is this. When you're talking to a rep, you can tell them you got two choices. Do it my way. And if you fail, it's still okay. Or do it your way and you better win. Because you will not be here if you fail on your way, not mine. You won't be. I will not carry a rep who does it their way wrong. That is a super important message to give. You have this isn't a bad message. This isn't a tough message. What did I say? He said, do it our way. Look, you can do it your way and hit the quota, or you can do it my way and miss. How great is that? But you cannot do it your way and miss. That is never an option. Appetite for closing. That's what this organization is at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we close business. That's what we're here for. And until sales changes its methods and its purpose, that's what I'll do until I get fired or quit. I am here to close business, and my team is here to close business. So I think those three together, if that's part of the punch bowl at your company, I mean, can you imagine how hard it's going to be to not succeed in 2023? If you've got a team of leaders and reps who are equally committed to being courageous and curious and closing, or you just want to do what you did in 22. You can do that too, I guess.
You can. You won't be doing it much longer, but you can.
I don't think so, but I remember, hey, look, excuse me. I sold in 2000. I sold in 2008. I know what those years were like. So do you. Everybody's probably a lot of people on this do. A lot of people on this don't. Those of you who did not sell in 2000, 2008, what, 1982, all those years, if you didn't sell in those years, you truly have no idea how this goes. This is not a normal playbook. Why? Because people are terrified in recessions. And the last thing that a terrified person wants to do is talk to a salesperson. So you think it's just going to be the old way, just do more of it. Oh my God, are you off? It is a different playbook. It is different direction, which is why I'm so glad we're talking about this on the
Yeah,
night.
no, yeah, and it is really important. And depending on the industry someone is going to there everyone's going to have to change in some people have to change drastically than others. Just it's all, but you have to look at, you cannot be doing the same thing you were 5 years ago. It's not. You're absolutely right. So if you are sales organizations who have a question on how to do that, maybe you should reach out to Jeff about that, because he will let you know.
Definitely,
He will
definitely.
let you know.
Yeah.
So no, thank you for sharing that. So that kind of goes into the next point, like what worked in the past, what won't always work in the future. And in this regard, like in a section in our Leaderboard to Leadership curriculum is really about what you should not bring with you, what you should bring with you. So what are your top 3 things? Because you cannot just move from, I'm the number rep, I'm just gonna, because here's what happens a lot of times. Number 1 rep or top 25%, you're in the top, the leaderboard, you get promoted, you're like, here's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close all the deals, and you start rescuing it's like that's just one example of like, it made you successful in the past, but it won't in the future. So Jeff, what are your top 3 things you should bring with you from sales, and the 3 things you should leave in sales as you move to
I like
sales
that.
leadership?
I like that. So if I'm going to, as far as what am I bringing with me to sales, I'm first going to start with the frameworks, models, and mentors that got me here. So whether it's a specific discipline or a method or an author or just a thought leader that you subscribe to, that is a real big part of your DNA as a rep, that doesn't change as a manager. In fact, you have a new job. Before you could selfishly consume that thought leader, now you're going to have to share the wisdom of that thought leader with your team in order to be effective with it. The first thing I'm going to bring with me is all the great virtual team I had with me that brought me here. That's number 1. The second thing I'm going to bring with me is I'm going to bring along with me an expectation that I had when I was a rep. It's really important to me as a leader, not that everybody does what I do, but that everybody knows what I do. So the question is, I'm going to set the standard of activity and leave it to the reps to decide if they want to meet that standard or fall short of it or supersede it. I can't make people do things. I can certainly try to inspire them to do things. And it starts with me broadcasting what's important to me. So the second thing I'm going to do is make sure my playbook on how I became successful is conspicuous to everyone around. And the third thing I'm going to do, I know you mentioned time management as an element to this. The third thing I'm going to bring is, just like I was very tough with my manager as a rep when my manager would attempt to schedule me, I had very strict rules on how I could be scheduled because my time as a salesperson was critical to me. I have 21 selling days a month and not 5 minutes more. So whenever a boss ever asked to meet me, I'd say, how long's the meeting? They'd say it's an hour. And I'd say, are you going to take an hour out of my quota? And they would laugh and say no. And I'd say, you didn't have to wait because I'm busy doing my quota. Like, I was a jerk, but that's how I did it because I didn't want to be bothered. But if I was going to be brought in, I wanted to make sure that it was on my terms. I do the same thing, the third thing, as a manager. As a sales leader, I hold my CEO, CFO, COO, and head of sales at the same requirements. You can get me, but not whenever you want, because I work for the reps, not you. Those are the 3 things I take with me.
No, I love that. It's not being a jerk, or I always say boundaries don't make you bitchy, but they make you productive. But there
like
are
that.
people like, yeah, like the open door policies, like
That's nonsense.
anytime. No, like you have to say, but that setting up expectations of who has access to you, when they have
Yes.
access to you, that might
Yes.
tick a few people off, or that might go like, but they will get used to it, and as long as you're consistent about the guidelines and expectations you've set, you condition how people treat you in
You
every
do. And
aspect.
what happens is, if you set up the guidelines, and maybe they do an eye roll, but then guess what happens when you do go to a meeting? The place was like staring at you. It's like riveting. It's like, oh my God, Jeff's here, because I never go to these things. So guess what? The meeting gets really productive quickly. Everything's really business oriented, serious. And I'll tell you, people forget a long time ago that I blew off a bunch of meetings because I thought they were wasteful. So it's all upside when you do it that way.
Yeah, I had a guest I do these sales leader executive roundtables for senior sales leaders every couple of months. It's a free thing I do anyway. It's a fun thing. And there was a senior VP at Donaldson, which is a global company, and he was talking about when he made the move, and people were inviting him to meetings, and he's like, "No, why do I need to be there? I pay you to be there." Like,
I have a script in my Outlook. If I'm CC'd on an email, it doesn't go to my inbox. I don't see it. I don't even look at emails where I'm CC'd. You want to ask me a question? Put me in the 2 line. If I just looked at my CC'd, I'd have 1,000 emails a day. It's like, you want to ask me? Ask me. I'm not just reading these.
Yeah, no, but that's a great suggestion. That's a great, like, fun little tip for
Good
sales
hack, right?
leaders. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. Like,
here's a quick little trick for everybody. If you miss their email, they'll call you or send you another one. There's no penalty if you miss it. So why wouldn't you apply great rigor to your inbox? I do. It's hard to get me to respond to an email on purpose.
Good to know. Good to know. Everyone call Jeff. He will pick up the phone.
Call, social, or text. That email, hey, don't like email.
Okay, that's great. So those are things that you bring with you. What don't you bring with you?
Right. So there's some stuff I'm not going to bring with me. First, you said it perfectly, Rebecca. I'm not going to bring my deal jockey ways with me. I'm not super rep now. So I'm not about jumping into every deal in the pipeline and I'm going to win this team over by closing all their deals. This is the quickest way to burn out of sales management, because the fact is you make less money as a manager than you do as a rep. You make less money as a manager than you do as a rep. You don't start making good money again until you get the C in front of your title. So this is the path you're on. That's cool. You'll get there, but it ain't going to be this year. So don't try to make it this year by out closing everybody. Just do your job and focus on pipeline, because the second thing you can't bring with you is whatever cowgirl stuff you used to do to manage your pipeline. If you were bad at math, get good at it. And if you were bad at spreadsheets, take a free class on YouTube, because the idea of you winging a meeting with a sales manager, maybe. Winging a meeting with a director or a VP of sales, you're taking your hat in your hands. So I would, second thing, don't leave all that, freewheeling stuff behind and get serious and mature with how you present data. That's the second thing that I would leave behind. And the third thing I leave behind, and this is a hard one. It's a real hard one. Got to leave behind all those friends you made as a rep. Sorry. Just doesn't work if you're their buddy. So those are the 3 things I'd leave behind.
No, I thank you for mentioning that last one. I talk about that in our curriculum too, with the mindset shifts. And it's so hard. You're not prepared. People say that leadership is lonely. It's not. It just changes. You just can't bring it changes.
When I was at my first tech job executive role, I had that feeling. And my closest friends in the world came from that experience. None of them were in sales. Very close friends in operations, product, HR. So you're right. You get lonely and then you don't. Because then all of a sudden, guess what? You're surrounding not by other salespeople, but other thought leaders in their respective roles. And then when you're working together in a contextual way, hey, I'm really smart on sales, but I don't know anything about marketing. And having someone that's a colleague of mine with their experience equal to mine in marketing, oh yeah, it doesn't stay lonely. It gets fun real quick, but you're not bringing those old friends with you. You're just not.
No. And it's, especially a lot of people end up managing them, a lot of times,
I did.
right? You end up managing them. And the relationship, it's not that you don't talk to people, because the relationship between a person and the direct supervisor has the biggest impact over their success in a role, right? Gallup's done all the research about that.
That makes sense.
You still need to have a strong relationship, but you are not siblings anymore. You're like mom and child, or father and child.
Different paradigm.
Or you're the cool aunt or the cool uncle now, but you're not whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it right, but you know what I'm saying. And I love what you say about don't wing it as well, because there are so many freaking talented salespeople who wing it, and they're really good at winging it. They're really good at waiting to the last minute. Your
Yeah.
sales team needs structure. They need some sort of
And you need it
duplicity.
if you want to have any social value with your boss, you're going to need it.
Yeah, you're not just managing, you're managing up, and you need to,
Yeah.
yeah.
You'll sit in that first executive meeting. You'll see how winging gets you. See where winging gets you.
Yeah. Wait, you need an itinerary going into a executive
Yeah.
meeting? What?
Right. Exactly.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate you being with me
Yeah.
here today.
It was
This has
fun.
been really fun. I was taking notes. There are so many great takeaways. People can watch this replay here on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn or on YouTube. But what are some of your final thoughts? Is there anything that you're working on? Anything you'd like to share? How people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for offering. So if you check out our site or anywhere I am on social, but if you check out our site, which is sellhoffman.com, there's lots of resources there. But we're launching a pretty exciting track for those that are entering this part of their career and they might not have the air cover of corporate sponsorship to take this kind of education. So we've traditionally for 25 years, been the go-to leader on sales training for enterprise space, but now we have offerings for the individual leader and rep. So we're really excited about having them for this year. And I think it's good timing. So for those fledgling leaders that are looking to sharpen their saw, we've got some stuff for you.
All right, awesome. So you can check out Jeff's stuff there. Thank you again so much.
Yeah,
It was
you're
really
welcome.
enlightening, and looking forward to maybe the next one. We'll have you on
Yeah,
again.
sure. Sounds like fun.